So you may be a new leader and wondering, hey, do I serve in middle school ministry or high school ministry? And aren't they the same thing like youth ministry? Like, what are the differences between middle school and high school? So we got 3 areas that I think really give us a good
difference, yeah.
a good difference of what they are, because there are a lot of similarities. Right?
There are. And so the first one we want to tackle today is maturity.
Big deal.
And so when you look at a middle schooler and then you look at a high school, the maturity is clear. Obviously, a 6th grade boy and a 12th grade boy, clear differences in their maturity. But really one of the bigger things we want to think about as you're teaching or leading is the group mentality of a middle schooler versus the individualism you see as they grow older. So in middle school, they're really going to hold close to their pack. I mean, they're going to be a pack mentality thinking about, these are my people, and I'm going to hold close to them and be scared to get out of that tribe. Those are going to be my people versus you have...
Yeah, so in middle school, right, it breeds from insecurity. Puberty hits, and when puberty hits, they become very self-aware of who they are, and they're not really sure who that is. And so they get their identity from other people's acceptance of them. And so they begin to make decisions based off of everybody else. Whereas as they get older, they tend to get a little bit more confident with who they are. Therefore, they become a little bit more individualistic in thinking about them and making their own decisions. And so that affects how we teach, right? And even how we program.
Yeah, and so as you think about their maturity, it directly affects their attention span. So once again, when you think of a middle schooler and you guys are going to prepare that lesson and you're going to get that middle school girl, middle school guy in that room, and all of a sudden it's going to be squirrel. Right, they're gonna be messing with their shoe, they're gonna be rocking around their chair, and you're gonna be very frustrating at times when you think that they're not paying attention. But really, their attention span is just short. And so as they grow older, the attention span can grow, and that affects how we teach and what we do in student ministry.
Absolutely, right? So a middle schooler has a whole lot more energy bound up in them naturally, and that affects their ability to focus, right? But as they get a little bit older, they don't really technically lose all that energy. They're just able to kind of hone it in a little bit better. And so whereas a middle schooler may have about 15 minutes of attention span in one setting, whether it's sitting or standing or doing something, a high schooler, as they get a little bit older into high school, their ability to focus is just a tad bit better. So I may be able to teach, or you may be able to lead a lesson maybe for 20 to 30 minutes versus just a quick 15-minute thought. And so that affects our programming. So where you may have to break things up into 4 quarters in an hour, I can maybe break things up into 20 to 30 minute segments, 2 to 3 an hour. And so that affects things, and maybe that affects you. If you like high energy environments, right? You may like middle school. You like to have that fun, and you think squirrel a little bit as well, right?
Yeah, and so last thing to think about is just their comprehension. So we have maturity, attention span, and comprehension. So as you're teaching and as you're preparing your lessons, if you're a middle school leader, you're going to be wanting to think about just a more general, broad, concrete way of thinking. So when you teach a lesson, you're going to want to be able to touch, see, smell, and be able to bring that lesson to life. They want to be able to feel what the Bible's feeling. And when you get to high school, you can broaden that to more abstract concepts, where you can really start to talk about things that you don't feel but are real, and you just have to you can get deeper with that.
Yeah, so we can cover the same concepts, middle school and high school. So the concept of the identity of Jesus or sin. But an example would be for identity of Jesus, where a middle schooler who thinks more concretely may like the book of Mark because it's very, very straightforward. Jesus did this, and then Jesus did this. He healed, and he had control over demons. Versus in high school, they may like the book of John, and they may be able to understand a little bit more about Jesus when he says, I am the bread. Obviously, he's not the bread. He's meaning something a little bit deeper, that he is the giver of eternal life.
Yeah. So all these 3 things packaged up, maturity, attention span, and comprehension, kind of show why we have high school and middle school ministry here at the Mill. And so just if you're thinking about maybe which one you want to serve at, middle school ministry, you're going to be thinking about foundational truths. There's going to be a lot of energy using that to their benefit, and just realizing how moldable a middle schooler is. You really have an opportunity to use that and mold them before they get into high school.
Yeah, and if you more enjoy more of a less energy approach, more where you can sit down and have conversations with a student for a lengthy period of time, and you're more of a coach or guide as they make their own individual decisions, high school ministry is a great good place for that.